After a massive solar flare struck the Earth, everything changed. Cities turned to chaos, and the world's economy died overnight. Money meant nothing, only survival mattered. In the ashes of civilization, an ex-soldier was given one final mission: to retrieve a mysterious artifact known as the Mona Lisa, hidden deep within the ruins of France. But what began as a simple recovery turned into a deadly one. As he journeys through war-torn cities and flooded tunnels, he uncovers the shocking truth. The Mona Lisa isn't just a picture, it's the key to humanity's final weapon. Now hunted by a general, he must risk everything, including his life underwater, to stop a weapon powerful enough to end what's left of the world. In London, Jake, a former soldier now turned treasure hunter, arrives and heads straight to a warehouse filled with countless items. He's looking for something specific, and he tries everything he can to find it. When he reaches the spot, he uses a timed grenade to blow open the door and steps inside. Inside, he finds a locked cage that requires a password. Looking around, he spots a code written on the wall. He quickly writes down the letters, rearranges them, and to his surprise, the lock opens. He takes the item and prepares to leave, but a group of men disguised as police officers confronts him, demanding that he hand it over. As they close in, he pulls out his gun and opens fire, taking them out one after another, even using grenades to finish the rest after warning them not to come any closer. When the fight is over, Jake leaves the area with the item and delivers it to the woman who hired him. He hands her the box, but she informs him that their king wants to speak with him, offering another mission in exchange for his dream boat. Jake refuses and drives away. Later, the woman reports Jake's decision to August, but August insists that they give him an offer he can't refuse. At Jake's home, he decides to rest, but as he falls asleep, he begins to dream. In his dream, he is alone in the middle of the sea, surrounded by silence. He wakes suddenly when he hears strange noises. Stepping outside, he finds a soldier caught in one of his traps. Curious, he asks why the soldier is there, and the soldier explains that King August sent for him. Jake agrees to meet with him. During their conversation, the king offers Jake a dangerous job. Jake hesitates, saying it's too risky, but the king assures him that his men will protect him once they reach the designated location. Jake finally agrees to take the mission after seeing the very boat he had always dreamed of owning. He then asks for details about the task. The king explains that the goal is to retrieve a painting of the Mona Lisa. The artifact's location is in Paris, hidden deep underground. After the solar flare struck the Earth, all valuable resources, including weapons and explosives, were locked away in secure vaults, far from the reach of explorers. Jake wonders how he's supposed to reach such a place, but August assures him that everything will be arranged. Their meeting ends, and Jake returns home to prepare for the journey ahead. Before his departure, the king gives Jake a map and detailed instructions to help him stay on course. Jake boards a plane as directed and begins his journey. During the flight, the aircraft starts to behave strangely, and Jake slowly drifts into sleep. In his dream, he finds himself once again aboard the same ship in the middle of the sea. But this time, he's not alone. A woman stands beside him. Before he can speak, the sound of the pilot shouting wakes him. The pilot warns him to fasten his seatbelt as the radar detects a dome targeting them. Moments later, the plane comes under heavy fire. With no choice left, Jake straps on his parachute and jumps. As he descends, he spots two lifeless bodies tied together on the ground below. Landing nearby, he moves carefully through the area. Suddenly, a bomber tanker approaches, but it's quickly destroyed by a group of fighters, the same gang August had arranged to protect him. Meanwhile, in Amiens, France, General Volkov receives a report from his aide that a plane has been spotted going down, with a single parachute seen near their perimeter. Wasting no time, Volkov orders his men to assemble and prepare the train. He wants Jake found before anyone else does. Back in Saint-Quentin, France, Jake continues his journey through the ruins. The air is filled with noise, shouts, chaos, and distant gunfire, but he keeps his focus. To blend in, he changes his clothes to match the locals and slips into a crowd gathered to listen to one of Volkov's soldiers speaking. He doesn't stay long. As soon as the opportunity arises, he quietly moves away and follows the direction marked on his map. Before long, a group of soldiers stops him, demanding he drop his bag. Jake quickly sizes them up and decides to fight. Using his training, he takes them down one after another. Just as he picks up his bag to leave, another soldier appears and aims at him. Before the shot is fired, a woman suddenly attacks from behind, slitting the soldier's throat. Jake looks up and recognizes her. It's Drea. She seems to know exactly who he is and what he's after. Without hesitation, the two decide to continue the mission together. Meanwhile, Volkov's soldiers were patrolling the town, searching for any sign of intruders. Jake and Drea moved quietly through the narrow streets, careful not to draw attention. After slipping past a few patrols, they found refuge in an old church. The priest welcomed them in without hesitation, and they quickly explained why they were there. Though startled at first, the priest agreed to help. Later that day, Drea tended to a wound Jake had sustained earlier. As she cleaned and wrapped it, they talked briefly, sharing fragments of their past and the reasons that brought them here. But before their conversation could go any further, they noticed headlights flashing through the windows. Vehicles were approaching fast. It was Volkov's men. Within moments, the church was surrounded. The gang's leader shouted, demanding that whoever was inside step out immediately. The priest, trying to protect them, walked out first. When asked if anyone else was with him, he calmly claimed he was alone. His lie didn't convince them. Their leader signaled his men to search the place. As the soldiers moved inside, the priest suddenly drew a gun and fired, hitting the captain. But before he could take another shot, he was overpowered and gunned down. Inside, Drea reacted swiftly, taking out several of the soldiers as they forced their way through the door. Jake, meanwhile, rushed to the vehicle the priest had told them about. He managed to get it started just in time for Drea to jump in. They sped out through the back gate as bullets tore through the air behind them. The captain, though injured, shouted for his men to chase after them. The pursuit began, tearing through the narrow, broken streets. For a while, they managed to stay ahead, but soon they hit a dead end. Soldiers closed in on both sides, and one of the trucks aimed a bomb launcher directly at them. Thinking fast, Jake reversed the car and turned sharply into an alley. The explosion hit the wall behind them, giving them just enough cover to escape once more. After a long chase, they finally lost their pursuers and made it out safely. Back at the palace, the king demanded an update on Jake's progress. His men informed him of the failed ambush and the death of the priest who tried to protect them. The king remained silent, his expression unreadable. That night, far from the city, Jake and Drea made camp in the open field. A small fire burned between them, its glow flickering against the cold wind. They spoke quietly about the mission, questioning why the Mona Lisa painting carried so much importance. But with no answers, they soon put out the fire, gathered their things, and continued their journey through the night. By morning, Jake and Drea set out again, following the map toward their next destination. Meanwhile, back in St. Quentin, General Volkov confronted the captain assigned to that region. His fury was obvious. The failed mission had cost him men, and he wanted answers. The captain begged for mercy, insisting he did everything possible. Without hesitation, he ordered his assistant to execute the man. A single shot echoed across the courtyard. While that chaos unfolded, Jake and Drea arrived in Souilly, France. The town was quiet, its buildings old and crumbling from years of neglect. They stopped beside a large, abandoned structure and stepped inside. Flashlights cut through the darkness as they searched every corner. After inspecting the rooms, Jake concluded that whatever they were searching for had already been moved. The place was too clean, too organized. This wasn't a break-in, it was a relocation. Determined to find a clue, they continued searching until Drea discovered an old diary hidden beneath a shelf. Inside, they found coordinates written in a strange code. Jake pulled out his cipher note and began decoding the points. After some calculations, he realized the coordinates pointed to Simserhof, France. But before they could leave, a group of scavengers who had been watching from outside spotted their lights and rushed toward the building. Acting fast, Jake set a small bomb near the entrance. The moment the scavengers broke in, he triggered it. An explosion ripped through the building, collapsing the structure and wiping out the attackers. Without wasting time, they got back in their vehicle and followed the new route on the map, heading towards Simserhof. As they drove, Drea used her handheld radio to call for assistance from their backup team. Meanwhile, Volkov and his men arrived in Souilly shortly after the blast. They found the building reduced to rubble, but among the debris, they discovered part of Jake's map. Volkov studied it carefully, quickly decoding the same coordinates Jake had found. He ordered his men to continue the pursuit immediately, pushing deeper toward the exact location. Jake and Drea stayed focused on their mission, driving non-stop through rough terrain until they reached Simserhof. The site was heavily secured, filled with rusting military equipment and power plants still running off old solar grids. They entered the control room and quickly discovered that the main vault was locked. The only way in was through an air tunnel connected to the ventilation system, but to crawl through, they'd have to disable the massive jet fan first. While planning their move, Drea received a radio alert. Volkov's team was closing in fast. Without hesitation, she headed toward the solar panels to cut the power supply, while Jake made his way into the ventilation tunnel. The passage was narrow, flooded with water, and the air inside was thin. Still, Jake kept pushing forward, but when he reached the other end, he found the exit jammed. The pressure from the water was too strong, and his oxygen was running out. Summoning every bit of strength, Jake forced the hatch open and pulled himself through, gasping for air. He stumbled into the vault, only to freeze in shock. Inside wasn't what he expected. It wasn't just the Mona Lisa. It was built over an atomic bomb. Curious and uneasy, Jake turned to Drea for answers. She hesitated, then explained the truth. During the war, the United States had built 2 atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan. But what no one knew was that a third bomb had been secretly created, intended for Moscow if the Red Army ever advanced beyond Manchuria. That bomb, she revealed, was connected to the Mona Lisa painting itself. Jake's expression hardened. He was furious, not just at the danger surrounding them, but at Drea for hiding something so critical. He felt betrayed. Without saying another word, he turned away despite her pleas for him to stay and help her finish the mission. He climbed into the car and drove off, his mind clouded with anger and disbelief. Drea, however, refused to give up. Soon after, reinforcements arrived at the vault and began the process of retrieving the atomic bomb. She handed one of her men the safety plug, warning them that the bomb would remain dormant only as long as the plug stayed intact. She urged them to guard it with their lives. But before they could move far, Volkov's forces arrived. The sound of gunfire shattered the air. A violent shootout broke out as Drea and her men fought desperately to protect the bomb. Outnumbered and overpowered, her team was wiped out. The enemy seized both the safety plug and the bomb before speeding away, leaving devastation behind. Meanwhile, Jake, still driving away from the site, wrestled with his conscience. Every thought of Drea's voice echoed in his head. And finally, he couldn't ignore it any longer. He slammed the brakes, turned the car around, and raced back toward the vault. When he arrived, the place was in ruins. Drea, wounded but alive, told him it was too late. The enemy had taken everything. But Jake refused to accept defeat. He assured her they could still recover it, no matter the cost. His determination reignited Drea's hope, and together they prepared for one final pursuit. Jake gathered a few special tools from the wrecked vault and set a timer to detonate the vault after they left, preventing anyone else from using what remained. Following the enemy's trail, they soon spotted the convoy, a train carrying the stolen bomb. As they closed in, Jake and Drea devised their plan. The train suddenly began to slow, angering the gang's captain. Without hearing the driver's explanation, he shot him on the spot, forcing the train to accelerate uncontrollably. Jake leapt onto the moving train, clinging to the side as sparks flew from the rails. He broke through one of the cars, ambushing the guards one after another, taking them down in quick succession. Soon he came face to face with Volkov's assistant. A brutal fight erupted inside the narrow compartment. Just when Jake was about to overpower him, Volkov appeared and shot his own man, not to save Jake, but to kill them both. A fierce hand-to-hand battle followed between Jake and Volkov. Every punch, every strike was driven by rage and survival. Finally, Jake pinned Volkov's arm and drove his blade down, ending the fight. Meanwhile, Drea had climbed ahead to the front of the train. Seeing the bridge up ahead, she planted explosives across it and detonated them just as the train reached the edge. The tracks gave way, and the massive train plunged off the bridge, exploding into flames. For a moment, Drea stood frozen in shock, believing Jake was still aboard. Tears streamed down her face as she watched the wreckage burn. But then, behind her, a familiar voice called out. She turned. Jake stood there, covered in dust but alive, holding up the safety plug in his hand. Relief and joy flooded her face as she rushed to embrace him. The mission was finally complete. Later, back in Surrey, England, Jake returned to meet August. He handed over the recovered safety key and the secured item. True to his word, August fulfilled his promise, and Jake would finally get what he had always dreamed of. The next morning, Jake stood aboard a beautiful sailboat. Beside him was Drea, smiling peacefully. After years of chaos, loss, and survival, Jake had finally found what he had been searching for, a reason to live again. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.